Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Tyler Myers. Tyler is an NHL defenseman playing for the Vancouver Canucks. Drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in 2008, Tyler quickly made a name for himself, winning the Calder Memorial Trophy as the NHL's top rookie in 2010. Known for his towering 6'8" frame, Tyler's had a successful career across multiple teams and has represented Canada on the international stage, winning gold several times. So first of all, Tyler, welcome to the show, and maybe tell us a little bit about how your summer's going, the off season here.
Yeah, thank you. Summer's going great. Summer's always good. 3 kids now, so that's keeping me, busy as ever. 2 of them jumping into school this year, so that's going to be different for us. But they seem to control most of the time around the day. We're making a lot of decisions around them. But other than that, summer has been great. Always enjoy it. And, we're getting into that time of year where you're starting to dial it back in and, getting ready to head back to Vancouver.
Workup's ramping up a little bit more.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So you're out in Kelowna during the summer, and then in season, obviously, you're staying in Vancouver.
Yep. We call Kelowna home, and been here now probably 15 years, more if you include the days this is where I played my junior hockey.
Right.
We love it here. My wife and her family, they all live here. She grew up here, and it's a beautiful place. I feel like we're adding 1 or 2 players that every summer that come and visit and end up not leaving. So it's making our skates that much better every year. But unbelievable place, and we love calling it home.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, Kelowna is like the summer hockey mecca. A lot of the NHL guys are spend a lot of time in the summer. They're just with the weather and whatnot.
Yeah, a lot of good alumni too.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a different upbringing into the world of hockey, because a lot of Canadian kids grow up watching hockey from a young age. I know you started at a young age, but not up in Canada, right? Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that history there?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm originally from Texas, and so I grew up there until I was 10. When I was 10, I moved up to Calgary with my dad and my stepmom, and kind of started our lives up here in Canada. And for a young kid, coming 10 years old up to Canada, being, as into hockey as I was, it was a dream come true for me. It was a bit of a culture shock, down in Texas. We had, at the time, I was 8, 9, 10 years old, young kid. There were, I think, 2 teams, at my age, and 3 million people. And you move up to Calgary, and there's 13 just in the one community of a city that maybe had 1 million people. So it was I found out pretty fast that hockey was everything up here, and me being hockey being my passion in sports was that was an amazing thing for a young kid, and just ran with it, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, no, it sounds like or seems like it did work out well for you there. Being from Texas, not really, like you said, kind of 2 teams with 3 million people. They're not really a hockey mecca. What got you into that?
My dad, he played growing up. He grew up in Pennsylvania, and he went to he played hockey growing up there as a young kid, and then he went to Lehigh University and played university hockey there. And I remember when we would go visit my grandparents who live in Pennsylvania. My grandpa would hose out his backyard and make a Charlie Brown ice rink.
Yeah.
And I still remember those days. It was awesome for a young kid. And, looking back, it was, quite a bumpy ice surface, but it was still so much fun. And, so I was always skating and playing, even at, 3, 4, 5 years old, but then, didn't officially start, playing for a team and getting into minor hockey until I was around 6 or 7 in Houston. And I still remember the day my dad took me to the local rinks pro shop to buy my first set of equipment, and never looked back.
Oh, that's awesome. And so I've never actually asked you about this one before, but correct me if I'm wrong. You also have a half sibling that's
I do.
not a bad athlete.
My mom still lives down in Texas,
Yeah.
and I have a half brother, under my mom that he's 10 years younger, and he's actually playing in the NBA. So I think we're the first brother duo to have an NHL NBA connection. So that's pretty cool. Um, his name's Quentin Grimes. He just got traded to Dallas. So he's back in his home state. I think he's pretty excited about it. I'm excited to watch him, be close to home and enjoy it from that aspect.
You took my fact away because I didn't know if you knew that you guys were the first brother pairing to do that. And
I
I
think
was doing
somebody
some
had mentioned
research.
it. Yeah,
That's too bad. That's too bad. See, I was gonna look smart on that one. Is it kind of like I don't know if you're an NBA fan at all, but I assume you're a sports guy, so you got to be to a degree a fan. Is it that you kind of change out the team you're cheering for based on where he's playing and vice versa for him?
for sure. I think I remember last year we had a big family trip in New York when he was playing with the Knicks, and he came to one of the games and he popped up on the Jumbotron as one of the Knicks players at our Canucks game playing the Rangers. And he threw up the "Let's Go Rangers" chant. So I don't know if he's continuing to cheer for me, but no, he kept it. He kept the fans on his good side. So I'm sure he's cheering for me until I get to Dallas, and
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
Stars fan that day.
Well, he was just smart about it.
Yeah,
Might
exactly.
have been cheering behind the scenes for it, but when you broke into the NHL, I mean, you had an awesome rookie season. I remember back then being with Buffalo. What was that like going from, the junior level up into the pros and just that experience difference, the speed difference, things like that?
Well, the game was definitely better. The guys were bigger, stronger, faster. But I've said this a bunch, but I owe a lot to my transition to the Kelowna Rocket organization, playing junior here. They're known as you know they spit out defensemen, every year. But the way they run things here, um, it made that transition to the NHL that much easier for me, and I think other guys who came from the organization would say the same. Very professional. The way they, handle the day to day was very similar to when I got to Buffalo. So, in terms of what the day to day was like, and the grind of that, I didn't have to do too much adjusting to it, which was great for a young
Mhm.
kid. Um, but you know, they kind of groomed, they groom their players to be able to handle that transition, and I think I was very fortunate to be part of, this junior program, making that next step.
Yeah, Kelowna in the league seems to be kind of regarded as one of those always top teams, and I'm assuming that probably has a lot to do with ownership and management and whatnot. What do you see in that organization that maybe they are doing a much better job than some of the other organizations in the league?
Um, you know, Good hiring, probably starts there with, good coaching staffs.
Mhm.
And then, looking back, I probably didn't know at the time, but looking back, with Bruce, Hamilton, the owner, and, all management and the Hamilton family, they, looking back, they clearly set a standard that they wanted. And, that standard was very high.
Mhm.
And, there's ebbs and flows in junior hockey for sure. But, they strive to have a very high standard. And I think that allows, um, not only helps players develop on the ice, but, develop into more mature, people when they get to the next level and are, they have to deal with, a different league and, you're playing with much older guys and, it just makes it a little bit easier to be able to handle that change.
Yeah. Uh, Shifting back again to your early NHL days, and so you played in Buffalo for a while, moved up then to Winnipeg, and at the time a young Winnipeg franchise. What was that transition like?
It was great. I mean, Winnipeg, I mentioned before I moved to Calgary with my dad and my stepmom. And I said, even the first year we got to Winnipeg, that neighborhood we lived in reminded me a lot of the neighborhood I grew up in Calgary. So
Mm.
it was easy for me. It felt like home. And, we back up in Canada, it felt like we were closer to family too.
Yeah,
Made it easier for them to come visit. So it was great. I know, Winnipeg gets, a bad rep sometimes for the weather, but
yeah,
it was, you know, very manageable, and we very much enjoyed our time there, and we also enjoyed it in Buffalo as well.
yeah.
Being drafted to Buffalo, um, had never been to New York, so it was on the whole other side of the country. So, it was it was different for sure, but it's amazing how many guys have gone back to live in the Buffalo and surrounding areas. It's a great area, has a lot to offer. And all of us guys who kind of came in around the same time, around 2010 to 12, we all loved playing there. I thought it was a great place to start my career.
Yeah. Was there a big difference between playing in Canada versus the US, or because Buffalo's a pretty hockey centric area that you didn't notice a ton of difference there?
It's different for sure. But I think it differs from city to city.
Mhm.
Canada, um, it's I think it's on a level of its own. Canada is such a big part of Canadian, or sorry, hockey is such a big part of Canadian culture,
Yeah.
and I think it's hard to match that anywhere else. But in saying that, there's so many great places in the States to play with such good fan bases. Um, there's a lot of the, you know, a lot of guys probably would say, their favorite arenas to play in, or a lot of them would probably say somewhere in the States. It's a lot of good hockey markets, and it's just different. Everyone in Canada lives and breathes hockey, it seems. So it's just a little bit different.
Easier to maybe go out and get groceries without having to sign an autograph, or
Maybe a little bit, but that just comes with my height.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, when you're 6'8", eh?
Yeah.
And then moving from Winnipeg out to playing Vancouver, what was that transition like? And you've been in Vancouver quite a few years now.
Yeah, I'm going into my sixth year now.
Yeah. A
The
new
first
contract, by the way, signed this summer, so
I
congrats on
did,
that.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited for the family and being close to home. We live in Kelowna, we get to play in, the same province in an unbelievable hockey market, great city, very exciting for us. And, going from Winnipeg to Vancouver was easy. And then, the first few years in Vancouver were a little weird. Just, everybody's life was a little strange at that time.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
COVID
that
and
was right in
everything.
the early COVID days.
Yeah, so once everyone got through that, we were able to settle in a little bit more, just like everyone else was, with any part of life. But it's been great. We love it there. It's an unbelievable city, and so happy to be staying.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. So throughout your career now, I think you're coming up to a decade and a half here, 13 or 14 years, right? Which just I think I'm a year older or something, so it just means that we're both getting old. Uh, what have been some of the biggest accomplishments that you've seen? And it doesn't have to be, the Calder Trophy or anything like that, but personal accomplishments. And maybe on the flip side, what are some of the challenges that you've really faced throughout that time?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to learn, over my career, a lot, I think a lot of guys go through it. But there's ups and downs, and the quicker you can find a way to stay even keel and not let the downs bother you so much and just bury your head and keep playing, it helps you a lot. You learn a lot, over your career. I've been around a long time now. So you can't let you can't live and die by everything that happens each and every day. You can't get too excited when something good happens. You can't get too low when something bad happens. So,
Mhm.
um, that even keel, I think, is very important. And, in terms of, you know, most exciting parts of my career, for me, I think my favorite thing has been the playoff hockey. I don't think there's anything like it.
Mhm.
It's what you play for. To get back last year to the level that, we expect to be at. Um, it was an amazing feeling to get that back, to have the team that we did, and at the same time, you know, certainly not satisfied with that. Um, but definitely heading in the right direction. And, when you get to playoff hockey, I think, the game speaks for itself. It's, the level it ramps up to is, you know, quite astounding, really. I think, you feel the energy in the building, and the fans, the fans are upping their level too. So it's, I don't think there's anything quite like it. It's one of my favorite things about hockey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you hear that out of a lot of NHL guys, right? When you get to the playoffs, it's like there's no shift off. There's, you
Yeah, and that's a
take a
lot of it
second
too,
off.
is the challenge. Like you can't afford to take a shift, or you can't afford to have a bad game.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna happen. It's you know there's so many factors that, get involved. You're gonna play better one game than other games, but the that feeling of you can't allow yourself to take a shift or a game off is, it's at an all-time high, and it just brings out the best of everyone. It's awesome.
yeah. How does momentum roll year to year? Like if I look 2 years ago at the Canucks, really, really disappointing early in the season. And I know all this because my brother-in-law is a massive Canucks fan, so I get to hear all the bitching and complaining about it. Well, I'm a Leafs fan, so can't say too much. Um, but disappointing early in the year, and then stuff started turning around. There's some weird stuff going on with the coaching, and yeah, Canadians probably remember that as time. I'm not going to ask you any questions about that, but uh, at the end of that year, 2 years ago, you guys were on fire. If I'm not mistaken, you almost made the playoffs. You were within a few points of the playoffs or something. And obviously, there was momentum that was building towards the next season, which was last year, and the team played quite well. Obviously, then going into the playoffs, played quite well. Made it almost all the way into the Stanley Cup Finals there. What is that momentum like as it carries over year to year? And as guys, come in and leave the locker room, does that, as you go into this preseason, are you still looking at that height from last year?
I think in a way, for sure. I think, you hear the term, you hear people say you have to learn how to win.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of what we did last year, and a lot of that, success that we had, I think that is just a stepping stone to learning how to win. And, some guys last year was their first playoff experience.
Right.
So, that's great for them to feel that and to feel what it's like and the level you have to play at to win. And it's so hard to win in this league, and it's so close. Every team that gets in and makes the playoffs you know, is a really good team.
Mhm.
We were up 3-2 against a team that was one goal away from winning the cup.
Yep.
So that's how close it is. And you have to, when it doesn't work like it didn't for us, you have to, sit down and evaluate and figure out how you can take another step, to the ultimate goal. And, you talked about a couple years ago when we weren't at that level, and some changes were made. The management that came in, coaching staff that came in. Uh, there's a lot of details to it and a lot of specifics, but essentially, they changed the standard.
Yeah.
There was more accountability, um, more more detail to what needed to happen on the ice to be successful. And the guys, we just bought into it. And I think it's important for us coming into this year, even though we do want to feed off of what we were able to accomplish last year. It's important for all of us to realize it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah.
There's every team that didn't make it. We have a really tough division. Every team that didn't make it is looking, for that edge to be one of the teams that make it this year. And so it's you just have to come in each and every year, each and every day with the mindset that you're coming in ready to work and buy into what you're trying to do.
Yeah. You're one of the older guys on the team now, as
Yeah.
you're transitioning through your career here. But you got a pretty young group in the locker room. Definitely some veteran guys in there, but some younger guys as well. What kind of leadership role do you or some of the older people take on when you've got guys that have only been in the league a year or two or three?
Yeah, I think, and I was the same way when I first came in. I think it's only natural when you're that young, first couple years in the league, you're not as vocal in the room. So, I think it's important for older guys who have been around to, have a voice in the room,
Mhm.
to be able to, talk to the younger guys about their experiences and what helped them uh, in different situations. And I was very fortunate, coming into Buffalo, my first few years of having an older group in Buffalo. Um, a lot of older guys at the time, older, for me, but
Yeah, yeah,
it was great for us young guys coming in, those couple years to have those guys around. And it was a big part of why we were able to, have some success at an early age.
Mhm.
And obviously a very good team, a lot of good players, but I had 8 to 10 older guys that I was able to bounce off of to help me in my early years. So,
Yeah.
I think back to that a lot, especially if we have a decent amount of young guys in our room. Just try and be one of those older guys that I was able to look up to. And
Yeah.
I think a big step for the younger guys last year was, realizing that accountability is okay. we can get on each other and hold each other to a different standard, and then still be best friends when we leave the rink. So, it's, I think that was just a piece of, what allowed guys to grow last year.
Yeah, no, it's great. I don't know if you're a stats guy, probably a little bit different for defensemen than it is for some of the forwards, but do you know how many career goals you have?
I'm gonna guess 87.
93.
Okay, so that was pretty close.
So you have a chance to hit 100 this year. You're definitely not an offensively minded defenseman, right? You've certainly got the shot, you've hit some key goals over your career, but you've got a shot at it this year. Do you ever think about that stuff?
I think it's natural for a lot of guys to, look at stats, at some point. I think there's so many stats out there now. You have to kind of figure out what uh and these can be conversations even within the coaches room of not the typical stat line you see like on somebody's profile. There's a lot of different stats you can look at, and
Like you're talking the more
there's
advanced statistics, right? Like
yeah,
possession.
exactly. There's
Yeah.
there's puck battle stats. There's obviously all the puck possession stats too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think there's certain stats you look at that will kind of give you a measure of how you're playing,
Hmm.
and that usually kind of goes that usually goes with what I look at.
Yeah.
The cookies are always nice. Guys feel good when they get cookies. Guys make a joke all the time. They have their goal legs. If they score a goal, they seem to get a little faster throughout the game. But um, you know, you take a look at some things, but you try and figure out the markers that kind of indicate um, the value you're bringing to the team
Yeah.
throughout the season.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, the value is going to be different for every position, every player,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
what stats you're looking at. What we look at as fans, goals, assists,
Yeah.
plus minus, stuff like that, right? Versus
Yeah.
the actual analytical stats. Although there's a lot more of that going
Yeah.
on right now with fans too, which actually is probably really frustrating as a player, I'm sure. But um, do you have any more particular milestones? I mean, the Stanley Cup would be a good one. But is there any particular milestones that you're looking to achieve in your career now that you don't have another 10 or 15 years to play? What are you really looking to do in the league?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the cup, which, that's everyone's ultimate goal. I do know I'm coming up on 1,000 games, so I think that would be, it's pretty awesome. I think for any player that you see, there's, it seems to be, couple every year.
Mhm.
But you see him hit 1,000 games. I think it's a pretty cool milestone. It shows that the guys put in a lot of work to take care of himself and to play at a high level for a long time. So to see all those guys accomplish that and to be as close as I am, I'm excited to try and hit that marker this year, and hopefully be able to bring in a lot of family for it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. You'll know that I definitely did some in-depth studying because you're at 995, I believe, if I remember that right. So you should hit that pretty early in the season, second week maybe in the season there. Do you know, are you in Vancouver for that game? Are you on the road?
If I I want to say I'm somewhere out east.
Okay.
Yeah, if all goes well, I think I can't remember. I think it's either Pittsburgh or Philly. It's one of those two. I
Could
can't
be could
remember.
be worse hockey places to be
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
getting that achievement. And
yeah,
in the NHL, is it the silver stick that you get for 1,000
yeah,
games?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a cool accomplishment. That, like you said, it's really only two or three players a year that typically hit that mark because
Yeah,
the
I'm not
median
even
games
quite
is
sure how many every year, but uh yeah, I think it's yeah, if I had to guess one or two. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. And I mean, obviously, you're focused on hockey. You're focused on doing what you need to do for the team and winning right now. But what does maybe life after hockey look like for you?
I go by, I jump around with this question a lot, especially now that I'm getting older. But right now I'm still very motivated to keep playing. I still love the game. Still doing well physically. So, uh, you know, in my head, I haven't given too much thought to, when I'm done, just because I feel like I still, have a lot.
Yeah.
But I jump around. I see a lot of the alumni here in Kelowna, and I see them coaching their kids,
Hmm.
and they tell me stories of what they kind of have to deal with even at anywhere from 8 to 12 years old. And honestly, it kind of excites me to maybe do that one day,
Yeah.
with my kids, or coach at that age group, and then see where that takes me. And then I see how much video you have to watch, and I'm like, no, no way I'm doing that. But knowing my personality, I'm gonna have to find something to do.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed, I can tell I really enjoyed the on ice, working on a lot of the things on the ice, and developing that way. Not only for me, but I like doing it with younger kids and doing it with teammates. We talk about things that you work on at practice. Even today, we had a skate, and us D went down to one side, and we were working on, defenseman drills and things like that. And we were talking about what we were feeling and working on during different things. But um, so that part of it, really excites me about the idea of coaching. Um, but I feel like it's way too early to tell.
Yeah.
And, there's always uh, other things that pop up, I guess. I'd have to, I'd have to really, have a really sit down and have a real honest conversation with myself, my family, and figure out what I want to
What to actually do there. Well, and
do.
you've got 3 years left on the contract you just signed. Certainly not saying that you couldn't sign another contract after that as well. You're a big right shot defenseman, and teams seem to like those on their roster. So that's always good to be, right? With your kids now at, they're a young age. Do you think they're old enough yet, or well, I'll ask you the question, I guess, are they old enough yet, or maybe your oldest old enough yet to really understand what you're doing, and you're playing this sport at the highest level, and
I see my oldest too. My oldest especially, he's 7.5,
Mhm.
and then our daughter, she's just turned 3, and we actually had a charity game this last week, and brought the kids out and everything, and she seemed to like she's starting to figure out what's going on. But
Yeah.
then at the end of the game's over, everyone's just talking to each other, and my daughter is still banging on the glass saying, "Go, Dad, go." So maybe she doesn't understand as much as I thought, but she has a ton of fun with it, so that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, our oldest, my son, he knows what's going on. He really enjoys it. They come down for warm up, and I go say hi to him at the glass during some games during the year. They love it. And then our youngest, he's not quite old enough. So I gotta try and stick around and play long enough to where he understands everything, so he can remember.
Yeah, so they can watch you play, have the memories of that,
Yeah,
and yeah, so stay
exactly.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just on that, early in your career, you were quite healthy. I think you had a stint in, there's probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years in the middle where you spent a lot of time on the sidelines with injuries. And, the last 4 or 5 years, knock on wood, you've been quite healthy again. Is there something, is that luck? Is it changing a routine, a workout routine? What does that look like?
Yeah, it was really one year. I basically missed the whole year. And that was a rough year for sure. Any player would probably tell you, when you're dealing with an injury and you're missing time, uh it's a it's really tough, mentally.
Yeah.
All you want to do is get back out there and get back out there healthy. But I will say, that the few injuries I've had, if you're willing as a player to ask questions and try and learn about why something happened or what's going on with what you have, you can learn a lot. I thought that's where I did most of my learning in terms of how to take care of my body
Mm.
and to the things you have to do to prevent injury, a lot of preventative stuff. But I asked a lot of questions, and through that time where I was injured, um, it gave me so much insight of what I needed to do to prevent it in the future. And knock on wood, it's been um, pretty good for me the last 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that I had to go through it to learn a lot, but I owe a lot to figuring out what actually happened when I did get injured. So
Yeah.
I encourage a lot of the young guys to get treatment, to take care of themselves, and take care of their body because it'll help them in the long run, and they'll learn a lot of what specifically they need to stay healthy and to feel good going out on the ice each and every night. Because
Yeah.
if you're dealing with something even that doesn't you don't have to miss games for, and it's nagging, it's not very fun.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. It, what would be something that maybe a Canucks fan or maybe one of the Jets fans or Sabres fans be surprised to learn about you?
Um, I'm an open book. I don't have too many surprises, but uh, big movie buff. Love
Oh, okay.
movies. I could probably quote you any movie you throw at me. Um,
Really? What's your genre?
uh, Honestly, everything. During COVID, Tyler Ennis, who I started in Buffalo with, we were
Yeah.
drafted together. He's a big movie buff too, so maybe we fed off of each other because we lived together in Buffalo
Yep.
early on. But during COVID, he made a he did a movie bracket. And we came up with it was only comedy, and we came up with 64 of our top comedies. We kind of threw them in a random bracket and we found out which one would come out on top. But then we'd kind of flip it around, the matchups, and then we'd kind of get different results. So it was a little skewed.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, if Dumb and Dumber didn't come up number one,
It
you know,
was
some
up there.
issues.
It
Yeah.
was up there.
What won it? Do you remember? What movie won?
Honestly, Dumb and Dumber maybe won it. What was really popular was Hangover 2.
Oh, okay.
Hangover
Yeah.
2 was a big popular one. But Something About Mary,
Classics.
I'm blanking on so many right now, but I mean, Step Brothers was up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good
Uh,
classic one. Yeah.
there's a lot of, I mean, I'm blanking on a lot, but it was fun. It passed the time.
Yeah. No, that's good. Do you know how many wins you guys had last year?
51?
50.
50.
50.
Okay. I remember it was tight at the end, and we ended up hitting it, so that's good.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't know if you're going to answer this one or not, but over, under, or push on 50 this year?
Well, you always have to strive for more, so I'm going to say over.
Over. All right. Sounds good. We'll circle back and see how you guys do. You're obviously getting ready for camp. That's going to start in a few weeks here. Any kind of last minute things you're doing with the family before heading back to Vancouver?
Honestly, just family time. My entire wife's side of the family is here in town, and my parents get up here a lot too. So, dinners, spend time with them. Maybe one or two last rounds of golf, and just try and spend a little time with them before we take off. But that's, one thing that's always nice about being close to home is, her parents are going to drive down with us and help us get settled. So,
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah. Just a little family time.
That's awesome. Well, I want to wish you the best of luck this coming year. I know my brother-in-law will be cheering you on for sure. I'll be cheering you on unless you're playing the Leafs, in which case I won't be. But I think you played them twice, so the other 80 games will certainly be cheering for you. And appreciate your time on the podcast today, and wish you all the best and enjoy the rest of your summer there.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.